If you catch your kid stealing, isn't it your job as a parent to take care of that? Well, what would that look like? Like, what's too far and what's just enough? Hi, my lovelies! Happy apple picking day! Real quick for our new friends who are confused. People send in stories to my subreddit r/AmITheBadApple where they're not sure if they acted appropriately or not. And every Tuesday we pick 4 to read and we decide if they're a good apple, a bad apple, or a crab apple. Sometimes we agree and sometimes we don't, but that is okay. We all have different perspectives, we all come from different branches of the apple tree, and we discuss civilly in the comment sections. So without further ado, let's get started with this week's episode of Am I the Bad Apple? Let's go apple picking! Apple number 1. Am I the bad apple for leaving my travel group at our home airport? I, 14 male, just got back from a Washington, D.C. trip with my school district. When we got back to our home airport, the Denver airport, we were told that we would travel to the baggage claim as a whole group, but there were almost 80 of us. And before we were allowed to leave, we had to give confirmation to a teacher that a guardian was there for us. I thought that was a stupid idea, but I went along with it until we stopped at a bathroom not even 2 steps away from the gate we just got out of. I was tired and I wanted to go home, so I left the group without anyone noticing, and I made it all the way through the baggage claim and secured my luggage without any problems. I mean, I've traveled through this airport many times before with my family. As I waited for my dad to pick me up, I checked my Remind app, which is basically a messenger for schools to use, and all of the teachers, besides the one who was in charge of the whole trip, messaged me not knowing where I was. I responded that I was at the baggage claim waiting for my ride, and if they happened to get there before the teachers got to the baggage claim, I would just send a picture with my dad stating that I was ready to leave. No biggie. And no one responded back. About 10 minutes later, the entire group comes shuffling to the baggage claim, and one of the teachers, Mr. M, approached me and lectured me about leaving the group and not telling anyone. I didn't even say anything until he was done, and all I said was, okay. He got all flustered and said, well, if you don't care, then I won't, and just walked away. Another teacher, Mr. K, approached me with basically the same lecture, but with a more, I'm not mad, just disappointed vibe. Everyone in the group walked outside to wait for their parents to come, and the main teacher, Mr. R, stood next to me and complimented me about making it through the airport all by myself, as the first time he went through the airport, he got lost. Another 10 minutes go by, and my dad is clearly lost trying to get to the pickup area, and I'm standing next to another chaperone near the start of the pickup zone. Mr. M yells at me again from the middle of the pickup area to come stand with the other kids. I just got fed up with him, and I yelled that my dad was right there, pointing to a slew of cars, and conveniently my dad pulled up right as I said this. Mr. M huffed and puffed and shooed me off as he turned to the other kids. On the way back home, I told my dad the story, and he agreed with me that they were just being rude. It's been about a week since the trip, and looking back, I feel like I might have been a nuisance to the teachers. I guess they were just trying to keep track of everyone, and to lose a kid in the middle of the airport must have been a little worrying. I'll never see those teachers again, though, as they weren't actually at my school. It was a district trip, and I'm going to high school next year. So I don't know if I should even really care if I bothered them. But I do want the opinion of other people who aren't in my family. So, was I the bad apple? As a former teacher who, if y'all know me and you've seen my field trip from hell video, you know how much this is gonna irritate me. I don't understand what is so difficult for these kids to get about the fact that when you're with us on a trip, we are legally responsible for you. I don't care if you think you're a grown adult, you're not. And I don't care how mature you think you are, it doesn't matter. If anything were to happen, that teacher would be liable for everything because they are your guardian for that time being. I don't care if you think your dad is 15 minutes away. It doesn't matter. Legally, that teacher's butt and job and life is on the line if anything happens to you. Who do you think you are to decide,
well, I'm better than everybody, and I don't really care if something happens to me. And I don't really care if it's that teacher's required job to do XYZ a certain way. I'm better than everybody, so I'm just gonna go do whatever I want.
so selfish and so entitled. I can't. And I love that in like a little edit in parentheses, they were like, oh, the whole trip, they said I was the best kid. I don't care. It doesn't matter. That alone, this whole attitude of that's just stupid and I'm not gonna do it because I don't want to, even though it's their job and they are legally required to do it this way. I would never take you on a trip again, ever, just for that. That's not the best kid ever kind of attitude. Bad apple all the way, and your dad agreeing with you, that's gross. For him to be an adult and understand that they are legally responsible for you, and for him to be like, yeah, they're just being annoying, that tells me everything that I need to know about how he interacts with your teachers. And wow, I'm glad that I never took this kid on a field trip, and I'm glad that I never had to deal with their parents. What a pet peeve. Wow, I got fired up for that one because, again, if you've seen my field trip from hell video, you know why. That's all I'm gonna say. If I didn't say it already, we're going bad apple. Apple number 2. Am I the bad apple for breaking off my sister's wedding engagement? My 37 male, sister, 29 female, recently got engaged to the love of her life. I'll call him Derek, male 34. They've been dating for about a year and a half, and we the family have gotten to know Derek since the beginning of this year. We all love Derek, especially my dad and I. We watch F1 every weekend together with the rest of our friends. The engagement was announced about 3 weeks ago, and we were all very obviously excited. 2 weeks ago at the last GP, I was talking to Derek, and at some point, my mind slipped, and I said something along the lines of,
oh, it's great you found someone you love so much that you would abandon having children for them.
Sadly, my sister had to fight a battle with ovarian cancer when she was about 16, 17 years old, which resulted in the surgical removal of her ovaries and, from what I understand, part of her uterus. Now, I didn't really think that much about my comment, but it turns out my sister never told Derek about that. It was like I dropped a nuclear bomb of information, and he said now it made sense why she always avoided discussing children. Needless to say, he broke off their engagement and they're now separated. And in the eyes of my sister and my mother, I'm the jerk who ruined her life and cost her the love of her life. I didn't think my comment was that bad, but maybe it was unnecessary. I don't know. Was I the bad apple? I'm having trouble understanding what encourages someone to say that. Like it feels so unnecessary. It's great you found someone that you love enough to not have children. I don't understand the point of that comment. It feels so unnecessary. Like it feels so passive aggressive, like a jab, like a backhanded comment. I don't understand why that was necessary at all. And it's also not true. Yeah, it is a travesty that she had to fight ovarian cancer. Thank goodness that she's okay and healthy now and safe. And a horrible side effect of this fight is that she cannot have her own children. And that can be so difficult for that choice to be taken from a woman at such a young age. However, it's also not the only way to add children to the family. There's fostering, there's adoption, like there are things that you can do. So that just makes the comment feel even more unnecessary. Like what? No, don't get me wrong, okay? Sister, also bad apple. Like what? You're getting married and you've never told your fiance you can't physically have children? That is so untrustworthy. Listen, when Avery and I got married, I made sure he knew everything about me so he could be sure, yes, this is the psychopath I want to marry. And yeah, I wanted to know all the craziness about him too, because again, like you're accepting someone and you're deciding to marry them as they are, as a person. You take them as they are. I think hiding that from your fiance is so unfair and unacceptable. Like, that sister's a bad apple, but also I think the brother, the OP, also a bad apple. Like, who just says that? What response were you expecting to get from that? As if he has to justify why he would love the sister regardless of her ovarian cancer. What? What? Like, I definitely can't go good apple for this guy. The only reason I'm considering crab apple is because I don't think there was malice there. Like, I genuinely don't. I think he's just a dumb guy. And I know the keyboard warriors are gonna be like,
Oh, you think all men are dumb?
with how much I boast about my husband, for anyone to try and accuse me of thinking,
All men are dumb and blah, 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 blah. Like,
grow up. But I do think there are people who do really dumb things in the world, and some of them do happen to be guys. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. But anyways, I do feel like he was trying to be like, oh, you really love my sister, but in a really unacceptable and unnecessary way. I think I am leaning towards bad apple, just because it kind of felt like he was rubbing salt in the wound. Like, you can say, I'm so glad you love my sister, without the, I'm so glad you love my sister, and doesn't this suck that she's now causing this for your family? So yeah, I'm gonna go bad apple 100% of the way. Now, I do think you guys could convince me of crab apple if anyone disagrees. I definitely do think you could convince me in the comments, so let me know. I think I could be persuaded on this one. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. He's just gonna sit over there because there's not enough space for him to lay on my legs up here. Apple number 3. Am I the bad apple for explaining how my cousin died? My grandma's always gushed over my cousin Mel, male 23, even though he's had a troubled life. I mean, he started doing drugs in middle school. He lived with my grandma after he did jail time twice in his short life. My grandma acted like he was just a
misunderstood boy, and he was just too smart for his own mind.
I feel like she enabled him to death. At the funeral, she was telling a family member that
he always had health problems and that Mel died of a heart attack,
acting like it was some tragic accident that a young man died and that the hospital was incompetent or something. I interrupted my grandmother and said, Mel died from meth laced with fentanyl. He was dead before he made it to the hospital, and Mel was not some kind of tragic hero. My grandma called me a nasty little tattletale and to stop airing the family's dirty laundry.
Mel was a good boy, just troubled.
I was asked to leave with my parents, and my grandmother and Mel's mom said that I was a horrible kid. They just kept bad-mouthing me to my parents. My dad added fuel to the fire, saying that at least he would never have to look at his kid in a casket dying from a meth overdose. My grandma's been crying on the phone to my mom about how horrible we are and how all the other family members think it was unnecessary for us to point out Mel's death and that we could have tried to soothe my grandmother in her grief. I think be realistic about the dead. Just because they died doesn't make them a hero, and why do I have to pretend otherwise? He wasn't a good person. But I guess I just gotta know now. Was I the bad apple? Okay, I want to say this first to get it out of the way so we can move on with it. I do feel the whole, let's be realistic about those who died. Just because they died doesn't make them a hero. And I say that because I know individuals who have passed who were horrid human beings, and it becomes very uncomfortable hearing people talk about them as if they were saints. But that doesn't mean that I agree with this kid and their actions. Like, that's why I said I wanted to make that comment and move on from it, because it has nothing to do with my opinion on this kid. I think this kid is definitely a bad apple for a few reasons. From context clues in this story, I feel like this kid was insanely jealous of Mel. And the reason being because Mel was a terrible person, blah, 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 blah. I didn't see anything in there about how Mel was mean to them or bullied them or anything like that. I just saw that the guy did drugs and his grandma loved him unconditionally, and I think OP was jealous of that. I'm very thankful that I don't have any experience with addiction and I don't have any family members that struggle with drug addiction or anything like that. Thank goodness. But it is a disease, and I don't think that succumbing to that kind of a disease makes someone a bad person. That doesn't mean that I think that the bad choices people make while on drugs are okay in any way, shape, or form, and that the way that they treat people should just be excused because they're on drugs. But I'm not going to sit here and say that I think that just because someone succumbs to addiction, that makes them a bad person. I don't agree with that. I don't believe that. So I genuinely believe that OP is jealous of the love that Grandma has for Mel. Now, we don't know that for sure, but that's the vibe that I'm getting. If you hear it differently, let me know in the comments. But if I'm correct on that, and I don't want to make a bunch of assumptions, that's just kind of what it sounds like to me. If I'm right, then that means that when he corrected Grandma in front of everybody, would be out of spite. And that's what I think makes the kid a bad apple, okay? If he was trying to tell the truth, to don't be ashamed of Mel, yes, he was on drugs, but it happens and Mel's not a bad guy because of it, then I might be singing a different tune, you know? But to me, it sounds like he's just doing it out of spite, just wants Mel to have a bad reputation, just wants people to have a bad memory of him. That's so uncalled for. You're speaking ill of the dead at his own funeral to his grieving mother, grieving grandmother. What is wrong with you? And I know where you get it, because your dad is no better. That's rude. How dare you speak to someone that just lost their child like that? It's not your business. And if you care that little about the individual who just died, don't go to the funeral. It would have been better if you just didn't show up. And I know that some people are gonna think that Grandma was probably ashamed of Mel and what happened to him, but I don't know. Grandma seems like the type of person who would justify any and all of Mel's actions, yet she was coming up with a story. So to me, I'm almost wondering if this is, the first stage of grief is denial. I'm wondering if it has something to do with that, which she could just have been ashamed about the drugs. Like, that's definitely possible and plausible. It could also be that stage of denial, of not really believing and accepting what happened. And I'm not a psychologist. I don't have any experience with this kinds of things. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. Maybe especially someone who has a little bit more experience in this area. I would love to know how you read it, what you think, what your thoughts are. So I can't wait to read them. Apple number 4. Am I the bad apple for making my son take responsibility for stealing? I, 41 female, have a 14-year-old son who's been begging me for boxers since he was like 10 years old. My son's always had a problem with chronic bedwetting. We've been to 3 different doctors, urologist included, and they can't find anything wrong with him. They told me that some kids just wet the bed longer, that it's more common in boys or something. I usually buy my son tidy whities because they're cheaper, and he wets the bed so much that he stains them. I don't want to buy him boxers just to get them stained. I told my son when he stops wetting the bed, I'll happily buy him boxers. He starts high school in August, and we'll have to use the boys' locker room and change in front of other boys. All his friends wear boxers, so he really wants boxers, but I told him until he holds up his end of the deal, I'm not buying him boxers. He's just gonna pee in the bed so much that he stains them. I sent my son to the store to pick me up a few things, and later that day, I noticed the charge on my debit card was higher than I expected it to be, so I asked my son for the receipt. He started freaking out and crying, so I asked him for the receipt again, and he admitted that he also bought some boxers while at the store. He said he was sorry and he just didn't want to be made fun of, but he still stole them from me. I, of course, made him get the boxers that were still in the package, and we took them back to the store. I made him explain to the clerk that he bought them without permission. She said she was sorry it all happened and asked the receipt so she could refund the money, but that's not why I brought him back up there. My son needed to understand that stealing is wrong, and I also am tired of washing his sheets nightly. If he wants boxers, fine, but then he's not staining them. I told him right there and then that he can keep the boxers if he wants them that badly, but that means he's wearing diapers from now on for the bedwetting, and I made him go find some extra large good nights, which are pretty much pull-ups for bedwetters, and I made him give them to the lady to scan and buy. He gets to keep his boxers, and now I don't have to worry about him ruining his bed with them. It should be a win-win, right? I told my dad, who I thought would have agreed with me, because he's a strict parent, and that's where I learned from, especially with my brothers. However, My dad said I took it way too far, and that there was no reason to make him take a walk of shame and allow everyone in the store to know his problem. He said that I should have made him return the underwear and that just be the end of it. And now, my son has stayed locked in his room the whole day and won't speak to me. I really didn't think I did anything that bad, but now I'm wondering, was I the bad apple? I will never, ever agree with a parent who thinks that publicly shaming her kid like that is okay. I mean, this is a bodily function that happens when he's asleep, right? Now, I don't have kids, and I'm a female, but if I'm not mistaken, that means that the bedwetting is like an involuntary bodily function, right? Like, he's not choosing it. It happens while he's asleep. And you're shaming your kid for that? I'm sorry, I don't know if you have a daughter, but if you do or if you did, would you shame her for bleeding through her pants because she didn't know her period started? No, because you understood that. You understand that you can't control that. For some reason, it's not getting through your brain that he can't do anything about that. And again, maybe I'm wrong. It's not like I talked to my brother or husband about them wetting the bed as kids. As I shouldn't, that would be a weird conversation. It's not my business. So for you to shame your kid over an involuntary bodily action, that's gross. That's gross parenting. Not only are you shaming him for that, but you're shaming him in front of other people. What is wrong with you? Have some compassion. You think your 14-year-old kid doesn't feel bad enough that it's happening? Do you think that he doesn't feel embarrassed enough to come grab you when it happens? I'm so disappointed in this parent. This is such gross behavior. Like, yes, I get it. He charged your credit card without you knowing, and that isn't okay. I agree with your dad. You should have made him return the underwear and had a conversation with him about stealing. That would have made sense. But you even said,
well, I didn't really care about getting the money back and he could keep it. I just want him to know that I don't want to change his sheets.
Again, I'm not a mom, and I know that moms deal with so many things, and I'm sure it's frustrating to add that to your plate every day. But this is your child. Where is your compassion? I don't have kids, but I do have a cat. I know the Karens in the comments are already typing, hush, just let me finish. Our cat Vixie has really bad acid reflux. So like she throws up all the time. And we've tried to find problems, we've tried to find an allergy, we've asked the vets, like we've done research that's just her body. It's not hairballs. I know everyone in the comments is about to try and be Dr. Vet. I'm telling you, the vets are like, this is just her body. But anyways, we are cleaning the carpet every day. Every day. And is it annoying? Yeah, it's annoying. And we go through a lot of carpet cleaner. Would I ever blame her? No, that's my baby girl. I love her more than anything. I would rather her be here and loved by me and my husband than somewhere else because she throws up on the carpet every day. She's not doing it on purpose. It's just her body. She can't control that. So even though I don't have experience in the situation, I have a version of it at my house. Okay, it's the closest thing that I got, and I'm so grossed out by you as a mom right now. Not me as a mom, you as a mom. So are you the bad apple for telling your son stealing is wrong? No. Are you the bad apple for how you went about this situation and for humiliating your child and probably destroying their self-esteem even more than it already was? Yes. Yes, you are. Oh, do we have all bad apples today? Yikes. I got 4 bad apples. And I'm curious, did you guys get a similar vote, the same vote, a completely different vote? I'd love to hear your comments down in the comment section. As always, I don't always respond to every comment, but I do read them. I promise I do. As always, if you want a chance for your story to be featured in one of my episodes, you can submit it to r/amIthebadapple on my subreddit or my Discord. I'm still learning Discord. It's a process, okay? But I will link it in the description and in the comments. And your well wishes for this week. I hope in the middle of July that your air conditioners are running strong. I know there are some places in the world that don't believe in air conditioning, and I'm sending you all the positive vibes in the world because it's hot this week. Also, be sure to keep up with my other social media platforms, specifically for updates on the podcast coming this month. So excited! Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you guys next week. Bye, my lovelies. Mwah.